Welcome to Life Today. I'm Randy Robison. I have the Heartbreak Kid for you wrestling fans. You know exactly who I'm talking about because Shawn Michaels was the face of the WWE for many years. If anybody follows wrestling, you know who this is. Shawn, welcome to Life Today.
Thank you very much for having me. Clearly, you can see that I no longer have the face to pull off the kid aspect of the Heartbreak Kid.
And you're not breaking as many hearts.
No. If I'm breaking anybody's, it's my own, I can promise you.
Yeah, okay, so I got to ask you, just how many years was it you were in?
26 years. 26 years. Started when I was 19, and I think my last one was, I was 44, I believe. I don't know if the math comes out to 26. But
You remember the arena where you said goodbye to everybody?
I do. It was in Phoenix.
That Phoenix arena.
Yes.
You said something that struck me in that whole bit. For one, you were obviously touched. You know, you're ending a significant time of your life. You're thanking the fans. You made a statement. You said, the only time I like me was when I was out here. In other words, you made me like me.
Yes.
When I was. What is that? What does that mean?
Well, you know, I've had a lot of years to I don't know, think about my journey. And you know, at 19 years old, I don't think I really had any idea who I was as a young man yet. And then and clearly I'd like to state up front, I'm not making any excuses. This is just me with my psychiatrist hat on. But I didn't know who I was as a young man. And then I got into this line of work where I was, you know, it was a perpetual life of pretending to be something. And over the years, I found my greatest joy being inside that ring, whether it was eliciting, you know, all the boos as a bad guy or all the cheers as a good guy. That was the one place where I could just sort of let loose and be whoever I wanted to be. I could go out there, and it's almost like a little boy never having to grow up and getting to play pretend his whole life, and it was wonderfully liberating and wonderfully free, and they always seemed to accept me for whoever I was. And I don't know, that was just so rare. And it wasn't until being saved in 2002 where I could finally balance that with something else, and something else, you know, obviously far more positive. But you know, it being my last time to talk to those people, I wanted to let them know that for a long time, they were sort of a life raft to me. I shudder to think what would have happened to me if I didn't have that outlet. I mean, clearly, I still was sort of a train wreck waiting to happen anyway. But had I not had that time in the ring, I think it could have gotten a lot worse for me if I didn't have that outlet.
Now that you're out of it and have been out of it for a few years, who are you now?
Well, now I've got the greatest job in the world, and I'm just a dad. And that was something that, again, with my salvation in 2002, that was obviously for me the beginning and sort of the end of the journey. It was the end of the journey as far as me trying to figure out who I was. I was a husband and a father, and I came to know that those were the two greatest jobs I could ever have for the rest of my life, and I would find no other fulfillment as wonderful as that. And then from that moment on, you know, the journey was just trying to be better at that, and trying to continue to grow as both a husband and a father, and obviously as a godly man. But I honestly, it's as strange as it sounds. It just, for me, I'm positive I wouldn't have found that without all of the changes that were going on in my life. And obviously, now knowing that was the Holy Spirit, you know, drawing me. But at the time, you just know something's going on, and finally something is, you know, more important than you, and it was enough to want me to keep trying to, you know, scratch and claw and find out what that, where that journey ended.
Yeah, and you figured out what that is. Obviously, Wrestling for My Life, your book, tells some of that journey and what you found at the end of it, yeah?
Yes, yeah, and for me, it's funny. It's now sort of it's a story everybody knows about, and as I've been doing this book tour, it's amazing how sometimes you all that interview us can ask a question that, it sort of rocks me. And I think, gosh, I never really thought about it. And a gentleman asked me, he said, your sort of, your bottom moment was a very quiet, very private moment that no one would have really known about had you not written about it or done DVDs about it. And it's not as if you were, you weren't on TMZ. Your
Thank God,
face,
yeah.
well, yes, well, truly. But it wasn't a public humiliation. Mine was a very quiet moment. On the couch with my son when he was 2 years old, and him crawling on me and me being not in the best of shape, and him saying, "Daddy's tired." And it was the realization that at such a young age, he was beginning to see who I was. And it just cut me to the quick. And
It wasn't just exhaustion.
no,
Was it pills?
no, it was pills and alcohol. And at that, on that particular evening, that not as if there needs to be more, but that was the extent of it. But honestly, it was the realization that he was beginning to see me for who I was, and I didn't like who I was, and the realization that he was innocent. He had no say-so in who his father was going to be, but the only way he was really going to know how to be a man was by watching his father. And again, me knowing that I was just failing in that bothered me in the deepest way, and that was the day for me that I said, this has got to end.
You're seeing the fruits, though, of that decision to turn your life around, spend more time with your kids. You're seeing a lot of that come to fruition.
Everyone asks me, because for the most part, in our line of work, not a lot of people have the opportunity to leave on top, as they say.
Right.
At 44 years old, I was still, I was the main event at WrestleMania. It was a phenomenal match, and clearly I could still do it again.
Dude, I don't know how some of those leaps you make. Good gosh.
That's just being dumb.
How did you not? Did you break a lot of bones through the years?
Yeah, I got hurt a bunch.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved doing it. But honestly, it was a year before I retired. It was somebody asking me how old my son was, and I said he was 9. And they said, "Oh, he's halfway gone."
Ooh.
And I said, "What?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Dude, he's 9. He's halfway to 18, man. 9 more years, he's gone." And it just hit me that my daughter was now, at that time she was 5.5, and he was 9, and I always said I'm not going to do this, forever, and through their whole youth I want to help raise my children, and in my mind I was running out of time, and so I marched into the office. I said, "Next year I'm done."
You're done, and they said no.
Yeah, well, it was really, they asked, really, and we'll talk about it, and of course in the wrestling business in WWE, retirement isn't really retirement. I think still 5 years later they're still shocked, and everybody's still waiting for me to come back and go, "I got one more in me."
Are you coming back?
You know what? I certainly could, but no. I'd like to be one of the few guys that retires and stays retired, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being home, help raising my kids. My son is 15, he's 6'2", he's bigger than me now. Our daughter's 10, and she's raising about 15 different animals, for heaven's sakes. And it's a sheer joy being there on a regular basis. And now the only time I travel, I go out and I do my outdoor hunting show, and that's my
Give me
job.
just so people go hunting show. What is that? What's the short version of that?
Well, I do a hunting show on the Outdoor Channel called Shawn Michaels McMillan River Adventures. Keith, Mark, and he's the original McMillan River Adventures show host, and met him a couple years ago. And my retirement plan was to retire and do a hunting show, and that way you're still on TV and your job is now hunting, and that's just
That's
to me,
got to be a dream job.
well, I mean, other than wrestling, my brothers get very, very mad at me because I'm the baby of the family, and I've never had a real job. I've never had a real job.
And
in
you've
my
been very
life.
successful at that.
Well, I mean, it's a gift. I'm very thankful the good Lord has gifted me the ability to make a living without having to work a day in my life.
So you've been away from wrestling for a while. You still got fans out there. They drop by. They're seeing this interview. They're thinking, "Cool, I'm glad he's doing well." What's the message you say to those thousands of wrestling fans that are still out there?
Well, you know what? The message is it's the same message in that book. That I'm just a guy telling a story. But the Lord intervened in my life and made a huge impact. And it was the result of me coming to a point in my life where I needed to look myself in the mirror and give myself a real self-evaluation. And was I fulfilling, God's plan, or the plan? If you're somebody that doesn't want to say, I don't even want to talk about that God stuff, fine. What about being the man you're meant to be? Can you look at yourself, in the mirror and be honest with yourself and say that, that I've done that. I've done the absolute best that I can do. I am the best man, the best husband. I'm the best father that I can be. I'm the best employee, whatever the case may be. And I just want folks to take a moment and be honest with themselves and know that if like me, you say, hey, I need to be better. My personal opinion is that it's Jesus Christ that'll get you there. But if it isn't, I would just say, give it some thought.
And if you want to know about the real Shawn Michaels, pick up this book. If you're a fan of the Heartbreak Kid, you'll find out who the man is. Wrestling for My Life, it's available online. Where can people follow you if they want to catch up with you?
Well, I have to say I'm not a big website guy, but I'm pretty good on Twitter. So it's at Shawn Michaels. Facebook is the Shawn Michaels because somebody had the Shawn Michaels, so I had to put the Shawn Michaels. And then, of course, Shawn Michaels MRA Hunting on Facebook, and MRAHunting.com is our hunting show. So yeah, I got a couple of them out there.
That'll work. Find him, pick up his book, and if you want to hear more from him, he is on Life Today with my parents, James and Betty Robison. You can see that at lifetoday.org. Thanks for being with us, man.
Thank you very much.